first ever memory I perceived during a past life regression regarding my life as Pyotr Ilyich was that of piano recital within, let's say, a private event that was hosted by one of the members of our family or by a friend. I couldn't remember exactly these technical details, let's say, because within past life regression therapy, what is very strongly recorded are the feelings, the state of mind, what the soul and the heart feels, perceives and records. But sometimes at, let's say, a documentary level, you don't have, of course, the accuracy that you have when you are recording a movie, when you are simply using a camera. So coming back to this moment, I was a teenager, somewhere between adolescence and adulthood, and I had to perform, to play the piano during this private event in a salon in front of a small audience. And what I firstly perceived was a great feeling of anxiety, an emotion that simply overwhelmed me. I was sweating terribly, my hands were trembling, I was moving restlessly my fingers, I had a cold sensation on my spine, I felt a perspiration on my forehead, and I was almost paralyzed by this idea of going out and playing in front of an audience. This was due to the fact that on one hand I was a shy character, and I was quite an introvert, and I was such a sensitive and a fragile personality. But the most important thing I acknowledged during this first scene I have explored was that of the tragedy I was living, of the great incompatibility that existed between my soul, which was a feminine soul with all its specific fragility and sensitivity, and my masculine body. During all my life as Pyotr Ilyich, as I clearly and in a detailed way explained in my book, I felt that I was a feminine soul trapped in a body which was too large for me, which resembled to me like a bear, and I felt to some extent like a spooky appearance. And it was not only that I didn't feel well in myself, that I didn't feel at home and at ease in my own being, but I was extremely afraid of being judged by the others. I was feeling extremely vulnerable, especially in this kind of situation when I felt so exposed in front of an audience. I felt that one day, of course, people might notice that something was not all right with me, and I was afraid that they would start to gossip and that they will be mean with me, and I didn't know what gesture to have. I didn't know how to speak, how to move my hands, how to act and not to be considered funny or to be mocked of. So, all in all, although I felt that I loved music from this very first scene and that I enjoyed very much playing the piano, I was simply paralyzed by terror in front of an audience. But what is interesting, and what was, let's say, the pleasant and the nicest part of this scene I explored in the first place, is the fact that at the end, I found I was accompanied by one of my brothers who took part at this event, and we left home together. And while speaking together, chatting in the street, following our way home, we were of course speaking about the event that had just taken place. and I told him about how much I love music, but how sorry I felt that I had this this great emotion, this immense tension that installed in my soul, and which simply paralyzed me and destroyed the pleasure of singing, of playing, and of approaching music. And all of a sudden, my brother told me in a very natural way, in this context of simple and closed chat between brothers, "But listen, Petya, why don't you try composing then?" Because he thought it was a great idea of dedicating my time and my passion to music, but not being vulnerable in front of an audience. And all of a sudden, I felt like a veil was rising up my forehead, and then I felt I simply saw clearly for the first time in my life, and I felt that this idea of his was the greatest one, and that it was to some extent the answer I was waiting for. Although of course he told this to me in such a natural and simple way, and he didn't realize himself how important it was for me what he had just told me. For me it was a sheer revelation. And of course, even if my life, of course, unfortunately kept on developing a bit complicated in the first years that followed, that I had to fulfill quite a boring and common job within the Ministry of Justice in St. Petersburg at the time, I started dedicating more and more of my time to music. I started studying in private music, and then I followed the conservatory, which had been just created in Russia at the time. And then of course slowly I started to dedicate my whole energy, my whole life, my whole passion to music. But this was the first moment when my brother gave me this great idea. And speaking about your question regarding how much I worked in order to write Being Pyotr Ilyich together with my husband, who was my therapist, the answer is we worked about 1 year and a half. We started in November 2019, when I discovered in this first past life regression on Pyotr Ilyich my past identity as Tchaikovsky. Somewhere, I think at the third or the fourth session of healing on Pyotr Ilyich, I started to feel this deep desire to share with others the extraordinary truths I was discovering, and the great revelations that the divine offered to me. And I felt this desire of sharing and of giving further what I received. And we kept on working, firstly, of course, for this therapeutical aim. And then when we felt that the healing on Pyotr Ilyich is done, and that we fulfilled all the steps necessary in order to understand, to forgive, and to heal, following all the necessary steps of healing through regression therapy, then the decision of writing the book was extremely strong, both in me and in my husband, and we kept on doing other regression sessions up to 1 year and a half, as I mentioned, in order to add more details. We returned to specific scenes in order to find out something that we were not sure about, or to complete with other important details that we felt were missing from the story, which were not so important for the healing itself, but which were important if we wanted to write a book. So we dedicated, let's say, half of this 1 year and a half to the healing process itself, and half to a documentary purpose for writing this book, which I wanted to dedicate it to the others interested in a spiritual quest and in a spiritual path. But what I want to stress is that even if we worked around 20 sessions of past life regression therapy, so around 100 years of audio recording for writing this book. Generally speaking, when you follow a healing process through regression therapy, it is not necessary to have such a long period of time and such a large number of regression sessions. When you start a therapy because you feel that you have certain blockages, phobias, fears, or certain health problems which seem irrational and you don't manage to find their origin, you start this regression therapy and you go either in the current life or in a past life or both of them. Then it depends on each patient and on that past life or current life story, if you need to go once or twice and everything is healed and done, or if you need to go further and fulfill more sessions. Because first of all, it depends on each patient's or client's personality. There are people who manage to pass extremely quickly through a trauma, or there are people who need more time of understanding and of healing. Then secondly, the life you approach might last 7 years. Maybe you were a child who died at 7 years old, or it might last 80 years. So its length also determines if you need one or more past life regressions. And then probably most important, the third reason of choosing the number of regression you have to fulfill is the number of traumas and their intensity. Because during an 80 years lifetime, let's say, you might have one important trauma or 5. And this trauma might be some medium ones, let's say, from an emotional point of view, or very deep ones. So the number of traumas, their intensity, the length of the past life, and the kind of personality the client has determine if you need to fulfill 1 or 2 past life regressions on a particular problem you need to solve, or if you have to perform 5 or 6 past life regressions. So what we did for Pyotr Ilyich was quite a particular situation, because it was a very traumatic life with important traumas, a large number of traumas, and I am unfortunately a personality who surpasses extremely slowly a trauma. And then, of course, as I said, we added a lot of sessions, particularly for writing this book, which we want to share with you.